Welcome to video number 5. This is a video about making your application. So we're assuming that you've initially approached charities by email or by letter, and they've invited you to apply with application forms. This section gives you an overview of the application process. We go into more detail of the two most important parts of this process, the personal statement and the financial statement, in the following two sections.
So an overview of the application process. So first I'm going to make a few general points about applying to charity, then I'm going to tell you about what specific parts a charity application consists of, 4 parts in total in fact. So first of all, some general points. The first thing is that an application to a charity is very, very different from an application to a research council or a university or a public scholarship. The first reason for that is because they're often more interested in who you are than what you're actually studying. This could be aspects of your background, for example, your nationality, your gender, your religion, where you live, the trade or profession of your parents, any number of the very diverse and colourful range of eligibility criteria that charities are often concerned with might be important. Secondly, they're not always academic. In fact, only a minority of them are academic. Charities are run by intelligent members of the general public, not by academics. And this means that you've got to communicate your research in very layman, non-technical terms. And be especially, and that's an especial challenge if you are, say, a research student or someone like that who is researching something quite complicated. The next thing is that charities will be very concerned about the vocational aspect of your course or your research, i.e. how it is essential in getting you a job, or if you're an older applicant, maybe how it's important in representing a change in your career or a new direction or an opening up of new possibilities. What charities don't want to think is that you're not sure about why you're doing the course, that you haven't really worked it out yet, or worse still, that you give the impression that you are doing the course because it is an indulgence or because it is non-essential. So make that vocational aspect very clear. Finally, try and give reasons why it might benefit society in some way. Now, charities are very concerned about this. Maybe this is how your research might go on to benefit society. Maybe how it might, say, help a particularly vulnerable social group, it might save lives, or even if you're a historian or an English literature student or something like that, try and find a way of showing how your course might be interesting or might be engaging to a layman audience. You can also talk about how you will go on to benefit society, given the fact you've got your qualification. If you're on a vocational master's course and you've got some training to help you go into a profession, then that's in itself automatically the case. Maybe you're on a teacher training course, for example. That's something that clearly benefits society. Or maybe if you're a PhD student, you want to go on to become a lecturer or something like that, and the PhD represents essential preparation for going on and doing that. Now, I'm now going to talk about the 4 main parts of the charity application process. So the first of these is, obviously enough, the application form itself that you've hopefully received in the post from the charity. Now, application forms vary in size, but usually they're very short charity application forms, sometimes as little as 2 pages, very unlikely to be more than about 6. Now, filling them in is usually no problem, but the critical thing is that you can add sheets to them. You can attach additional pieces of paper. You can attach your CV, unless you're told not to, and you can also include an additional information sheet so that you can expand on sections in the form where there is insufficient space. Also, if there isn't space for one, you can include a personal statement and a financial statement as well. The second important part of your charity application is your personal statement. Now, this is the most important part, absolutely critical really, probably between 500 and 800 words, something like that. And we actually go into that in a lot of detail in the next section, which is explicitly about personal statements, so I won't say any more about that here. The third section, or the third part of your charity application process is financial statements. Now, this is literally just, for an academic year in question, a tabulation of your income or your projected income, maybe through fees, maybe through scholarships, maybe through part-time work, through savings, that sort of thing, and then your expenses. Maybe that's your course fees, your maintenance, whatever it is. And financial statements will be different depending on whether you're interested in money for fees and maintenance or money for conferences and research expenses. Now, many students find the idea of a financial statement quite odd, and it's something that they won't have thought of or really encountered before. Because many charities are actually interested about the nature of your financial situation at the moment and how they fit into that. Again, we're going to talk about that explicitly in its own section, which is the next but one section on financial statements. So again, I won't go into any more detail here in this overview video. Fourthly and finally, the fourth part of your charity application process is references. Now, references are usually going to be from your supervisor. Probably only going to need one, or your course leader, or your prospective supervisor, or your prospective course leader. Now, the purpose of a reference for a charity application process is quite different from in an academic job or in, say, an award for, say, a big research council scholarship or something, where who writes the references and what's in them is really important. A charity reference is important mainly so the charity knows you are who you say you are, i.e. that you are a current or prospective student at this university. As you might imagine, charities get a lot of applications from, shall we say, morally dubious people, from scammers, from those sorts, and so they want to be certain that you are who you say you are. Basically, your supervisor in this reference should simply write, confirm that you are a student at this university or a prospective student, that you have a deficit in your funding package, and obviously if they write that you're a really awesome student and that you're going to be really important maybe to a particular area of research or whatever it might be, then all so much the better. Now, if you want to apply to quite a few charities, you should probably ask the person writing the reference to write a generic reference or an open reference. This is simply a reference that is addressed to Dear Sir stroke Madam or to whom it may concern. And your referee gives it to you and you can print it out or email it to as many bodies as it's necessary for you to do so. This just saves a lot of hassle. So, there are the four sections. What happens next, you might ask, once you've sent away your application form and all those things in it as an application pack? Well, you're probably going to have to wait around 2 weeks, a month, something like that. Charities are very, very fast. And hopefully, of course, you'll succeed and hopefully you will be given a grant. Now, if you do get the money, you can actually reapply in subsequent years if your course is more than 1 year and have a really good chance of getting the same grant again. So if you get £1,000, there's a good chance the charity might give you £1,000 again in the next year. They may simply offer you that money for every year of your course, or say to you that just reapply next time and we'll probably give you the award. That's very, very common. Now, if you're rejected from a charity, you can actually write to ask why. Sometimes they might not divulge that information, but sometimes they will. And if you ask them whether or not you should bother applying again, and if they say yes, you'll have already given yourself a bit of an advantage next time round because you'll have demonstrated persistence and maybe become a name that they recognise in a small office. Also, and finally, if you hear positively from a charity, and maybe you get, say, £1,000 from a particular charity, you should write to the other charities who are currently reviewing your application to tell them that you've been successful at that particular body. This will actually give you a better chance of getting those other awards because those other charities may be emboldened by the fact that you've actually got another sponsor and so may be more likely to give you money as well. In terms of how the award is paid, it's usually going to be a personal cheque to you, easy enough, or it might be a personal cheque to your university. In that respect, just give it to your departmental administrator and he or she will eventually be able to get that credited back to your account or knocked off your fees or whatever it might be. If you're a prospective student, most charities will make the award only conditional upon you actually starting your course at a particular university. So that's the overview of the application process, and we'll go on to talk a little bit more about those two aspects of it, personal statements and financial statements, in the next two sections.
Thanks for listening. Please click on the Read More About It link at the bottom of the page for further information.